So, how does a movie badass defend unarmed against a sword cut? Like this. Is it idiotic? Yes. It's not going to be perfect form here because the camera, just show what happens if you actually engage your core and do a proper cut. It's all over the place. Even if you just do it a little bit, like this is already off. So you're just gonna have to be a stiff mannequin that just swings like this. Just for camera restraints, we're just gonna have to deal with that. Yes. If you have super reflexes, speed, etc., coordination, timing, in theory you could do it. It's not hard for me to control the blade because of the leverage here. If I can exploit the lever against the sword user. So hold against it, don't let me move it. You can use both hands, just don't let me move it. Hold against it. Yep, good. Hold against it. Okay, try really hard now. Don't let me move it. What's happening? Leverage is what's happening. So the further I am away, the easier it is for me to manipulate the sword because, you know, it's a long lever, so my forces get multiplied, in short. So if I have it here, then yes, it's not that hard for me to stop it if it's a static push. Of course, if you're dealing with the momentum of a full-powered cut, it's a different story. But in theory, so if you cut down at me and see, I already fucked it up. So if you cut at me and I intercept it correctly, this is not really ideal. I need to get a little bit further down. Boom. So that's what I want. And now, so use your other hand, push against here, so you make up for the leverage disadvantage, and then see if you can get it out of my hand. Just push down as hard as you can. I can hold onto it fairly well, so friction isn't really the issue here. Now, if you have sweaty palms, yeah, this would be an issue. So in that case, gloves would make it a little easier. So that's the theory. Here's where the problems start. So for one, if you look at the hand, you've got the pad here, so that's the thumb muscle, and generally it just swells there a little bit. If this happens, I'm screwed. You know, like if I catch it here, but the momentum keeps driving the sword downward, it could basically cut the base of my thumb off and then still go into me. And, you know, basically if I mess anything up, even a little bit, for example, if you're in a high guard and I expect a downward cut, I try to catch it, but you actually do a diagonal, boom, just goes straight into my hand, probably through it, and I'll be in a world of hurt. And this is hard to see. Let me just demonstrate how hard it is to see. Try to anticipate whether I'm going to cut a vertical or a diagonal. I can't hit you from here, but just try to figure it out.
By the time I see it, you're swinging already, because the only way for me to see the difference is if you lift your arm or not.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I do it with very rigid form and, you know, just focus on 100% perfect edge alignment, so I just go robotically, okay, you can tell because it comes from here, but nothing stops me from turning this into a vertical. Or if I, you know, start here, that would be the predictable one, but I can easily, you know, I have to adjust because if I do it this way, it's crappy edge alignment. But how much time do you have? This is just a split second of adjustment, you know, particularly if you're dealing with someone who's way faster than me. Oh, and by the way, gauntlets wouldn't really help you. They would help to an extent, because on the inside of any kind of gauntlet, you have a soft glove. You cannot have rigid plates on the inside because then you wouldn't be able to flex your fingers and use your hand. You know, if you have sweaty hands and it's just gonna be slippery. With gloves, not so much. But it doesn't really protect your hand as such. You know, whether or not you have a glove on the inside, a sword cut will just easily go through it and sever your entire hand, and it doesn't help you whatsoever. So you would need to do this 100% perfectly. So in that way, it is basically a super badass kind of show-off move, because if you just misjudge a little bit, you know, bit too early, it's going to cut your hands. A bit too late, it's going to cut you. I mean, I'm out of measure, but you know, if I screw this up, I'm pretty much dead. It's so absurdly risky, because let's do it the other way around. So I'll do it very slowly, and you try to catch it. So, boom. That's the ideal. All right. Here's the not so ideal. So against a thrust, you could do the same thing. So thrust comes in, you go boom, all right, and push against it. I'm not worried about it because I know that I can hold it. You know, even if you put your entire body weight into it, I'm good here. So I have a firm grip, and you should also be able to do the same. I'm just going to aim off center so I don't accidentally stab you, but just try to hold it in case somebody says, oh, it's just a different weight and whatever. Your arms collapse before you lose friction on the blade. So again, if you have sweaty palms, forget about it. With gloves, push as hard as you can. Actually, this is slipping more, I feel right now. Let's do this again. Okay, that is actually slipping through my gloves. So in this case, these gloves actually give me less traction than my palms do. So this might be bad news. So again, superhumans can get away with all kinds of stuff, and they can look like complete badasses. If you did this in real life, you would be dead meat, basically. An embarrassment at best. So if you had to defend yourself unarmed, first off, you're screwed. Unarmed against a sword. I've seen a number of demonstrations that show you various techniques that you're supposed to use against a sword cut. They all basically would fall apart against somebody who is actually intent on killing you. This stuff works because both move very slowly, and generally the person who demonstrated moves at a faster rate than the person who actually attacks, and the attacker is completely, you know, limp and compliant. That's why it worked. You want to cut, I just, boom, I come in here like this, and now I have control, and I wrench and blah, blah, whatever. You're not going to be able to pull that off, because by the time you perceive the movement and you start to react, and then you have to close this gap, by the time you're here, the sword is already in your head, most likely. I mean, again, if you're good enough, you can pull it off. If you're very fast and well coordinated and have practiced it a lot, then yes, you can potentially pull it off, but it's extremely dangerous. And if your opponent is not a slouch and is about as fast as you, then it's almost hopeless. Just this reach here, that's very difficult to deal with. So what's the best chance you have if you wanted to do this in a more realistic way? So first off, I want to evade it. I want to evade it in this direction. This seems counterintuitive because it seems like I'm stepping into the cut, but here's the deal. If it's a diagonal and I step over here, it's following me. So this doesn't help me at all. Whereas diagonal cut, I step like this, I evade it. The closer you can make it, the better, because if you cut, I go all the way over here, I can't actually reach you. So the closer I can pass the blade, the better. You know, this. Now I'm here. So that's one thing. But I want to also use my arm as an additional defensive mechanism, so I don't rely just on evading. What do I have in my eye?
Your hair.
My hair. Yes. Hair is useful.
It's a peacock thing. You keep it because it is dangerous and you can manage to pull it off. Exactly.
So the principle is I want to deflect it off to the side. If it's a vertical, That's a pretty easy thing because all I need to do is just nudge the flat of the blade. All that does is, instead of stopping the energy, is it redirects it. That's what I want. So against a vertical cut, that's easier anyway, because all I have to do is step a little bit over to the side. It doesn't follow me in any way. So it doesn't matter which direction I step off, I'm good. With a diagonal, it covers a lot more ground side to side. So I need to do something about this. So if I step off, step into it and nudge it off to the side, I'm good. Again, I cannot screw this up because if I do, it ends up right in my arm, cuts into it, and I'm done. What I can do is this kind of deal. Whether I use this arm or that doesn't necessarily matter that much. So I just need to get this out of the way, or I can try to catch it. So what I'm doing here is I'm wrapping my fingers around the spine of the blade, so I'm not actually getting in contact with the edge right here, just like this. And now I've got something. That's the ideal situation, because if this happens, now I can do something, try disarm or just attack the person, stuff like that. And some of you will like this. This is one of the rare situations that I can see where spinning might actually make sense. I said it! If I take my rear leg and I take a diagonal step like this to cover a lot of ground, to the side and in. So cut comes in, I step like this. Now I'm set up for this. I don't have to do it. Absolutely not. I can take this step and then, do whatever I want. Things like that. I can also take, cross like this. If I time it right, I could also do it on the other side, because what I need to do is this. Again, this needs to be precise. What I can't do is screw up the angle, because then my hand is gone. I need to slap it with my palm exactly perpendicular to the blade, or as close as I can be, because this will deflect it. This will not. And I can do the same thing with a thrust. So thrust comes in, and I just need to move my body off to the side. Again, ideally, I keep this as close as possible, because obviously this takes me a lot longer and gets me off course much more than this. All right, the problem is, of course, again, if I mess this up, I'm dead, or at least grievously injured. So, boom, now I've got something. And again, this I can easily manipulate due to the superior leverage. One thing I could do is use the front arm. So it comes in and I can just kind of swing my forearm against it. So boom. And then I'm set up here. Again, keep in mind how difficult this is. You can demonstrate this all day, boom, especially if I move faster than the person demonstrating. If I actually adjust to your speed, still easier because I can actually see what's happening. If you move faster, it's a lot harder for me. So again, that's the theory. And ideally, again, I would grab it, because now I've got something to work here. And that makes so much more sense than trying to stop it in front of you where, worst case scenario, you drive it into yourself. You want it away from you. Holding onto the blade is great because now you have control. There's just one problem. If the opponent doesn't like what you're doing, they're going to do this. And this is also mentioned in one of the historical manuscripts about blade grabbing. It is a thing in the manuscripts, but it's mentioned that if you twist your blade, your opponent is really any direction. Doesn't really matter. Try either. That I can't hold on. Try the other direction. It makes a difference between whether you slice my thumb or my fingers. So there's no way I can really hold on to that. This is also quite a problem with a narrow blade like this. I couldn't bring the rapier along, it's just so freaking long. So let's just do it with this. So if I manage to grab this, twist it out of my hand, like, I mean, I can still hold on, but my hand is getting shredded, basically. If this was sharp, my hand would be bleeding, and which makes it slippery again. So things like that. So if I try to catch this, this would be difficult. I mean, on the one hand, this is a lot less to hold on to begin with. Like, this is all the width I have to work with. Like, it's not a fantastic grip, and then when you twist it, it just, yeah, I mean, I could possibly hold on to it if it was for dear life, literally, but this ain't great. Yep, and this is the other problem. And this is a blunt edge. If this was sharp, I would not be able to hold on to it if the opponent twists and pulls at the same time. It's just not happening.
And I hardly twist it at all.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's absolutely no way. So what I could do with this is, if you try to shank me, is, you know, this deflection, and then do something. In a way, this would almost be worse, because for one, the lever isn't as long. So if you resist, don't let me manipulate it. I mean, I can still do it, but I don't have as much of a mechanical advantage. And also, try to do something when the opponent's just shanking you like crazy. With such a small blade, you can be very quick about it. By the time I deflect it once, the next thrust is already coming. So this is just not really happening. Catching a thrown knife, you know, like Eric Draven does it in The Crow, is, again, theoretically plausible if you time it just right. Because at least there you have the advantage that it's just the knife itself. There's no person behind it, you know, putting their weight behind it or whatever. You just need to stop the velocity of the knife, and the knife doesn't weigh that much, etc. The problem is, of course, how are you ever going to time this correctly? You have to be, again, pretty much superhuman, or at least very, very fast and have excellent reflexes. And even then, why bother? You know, he does it this way as well, and that's seen. Sidestepping and swiping is so much safer than trying to do this. So yeah, it's a trope. It doesn't make any sense. It would never work in real life. And yeah, that's about it. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and have a good one.